Hey guys, a lot of times you hear me interviewing lots of amazing guests, but today you get to hear me being interviewed by someone else. This podcast is from Burning the Boats podcast. Check it out.
Welcome to another episode of Burning the Boats. And today I have a very exciting guest. If you are listening from the Hampton Roads area and you have a radio in your car, you have certainly heard of today's guest. I'll kind of start it off with, if it has to sell, call Chantel. So today we have Chantel Ray or Chantel Finch. Which one do you prefer to go by?
I go by Chantel Ray Finch now.
Okay, gotcha. So, well, thank you for coming on Burning the Boats. I'm excited to spend a little bit of time with you and kind of peel the onion back and see who you are and what you're all about.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are quite welcome. So, Chantel, are you a Virginia, like Hampton Roads native? Been here your entire
No,
life?
I've been here for 20 years, and we actually are getting ready. We just put our house on the market, and we just got an offer on our house, and we are actually moving to Florida. So
That's awesome. What part of Florida?
We're going to be like in the Tampa, Sarasota area. Like we would be like near Blue Water. And so we're really excited about it. Kyle just got accepted into the #1 sports school in the United States. So kind of going to be near there.
What school is that, out of curiosity?
But IMG.
Yep, I'm very familiar with it. That's what I thought you were talking about, but that's awesome. He played basketball?
Baseball.
Baseball, okay.
He plays baseball and tennis. He's really good at both, but he loves baseball more.
Very cool. Yeah, we just recorded a podcast earlier this week with Coach Ballgame. I don't know if you're familiar with his social media content, but he's a big youth baseball coach, very, very big following on Instagram, but it was a good interview. So that's exciting. That's a lot of big changes moving. You're still on the East Coast, so that's good. So you're just moving south. So, well, Chantel, what I'd like to do is, like I mentioned, anybody that is from this area is definitely familiar with your brand. And on the real estate side, I know you have grown things far beyond that, but you still have the real estate interest in your company. So I'd like to kind of start there because, there's any given day, you might have 100 different people starting and getting their real estate license, right? So a lot of people start, they don't stay, and they kind of fizzle out. A lot of brokerages start and kind of fizzle out. You started strong and you have been a big presence in this area and in this market for years. So take us back and kind of introduce us to like your story and your start before real estate, and then how you got into real estate, and then how you grew this brand so well.
Yeah, so I started out, I actually have my degree in math. I was a math teacher at Cox High School. And then I got into ministry, and I decided that God was calling me to get into ministry. So I was a youth pastor, but I was working full time, but they only had the money to pay me 20 hours a week at $9 an hour. And I did that. And then I was then a children's pastor. And then I decided to get into real estate. And so my first year of real estate, I sold more houses than any rookie in Hampton Roads. And then from there, I just decided to grow my team. And so I decided that I didn't like driving people around like in cars. So within like 3 or 4 transactions, I first hired my first assistant, and then I hired my first team members. And so right away, when I first started, I'm really good at delegating. I actually am writing a book right now called How to Delegate Everything But Sex. And my website is delegateeverythingbutsex.com. And so everyone's always said to me, there's 2 things that people say about me. One is that I actually had a rumor going around about me that I have my degree in marketing from Harvard University, which I've never taken a marketing class in my life. But there's 2 skills that I think God's given me naturally. And one of them is the art of delegation. And the other one is just marketing. So that's kind of how I grew my brand. But I really did it by really hiring and delegating. And that's how I grew my company the way that we have.
Yeah. And it's been very impressive. And I'd like to spend a little time on this because a lot of our audience are entrepreneurial, or they have whether it's coaches or business owners or whatever it is, they're building teams, right? And you just alluded to it, very quickly recognize that there's a better way to do this, right, than what everybody else, and running around to all these appointments and showings and stuff like that. So you, right out of the gate, started building this team and delegating tasks, and it just grew from there. So I'd like to kind of dive into your mindset around that. Did you naturally know how to do these things, or did you hire a mentor, or did you where did all this come from?
Yeah, so part of it is when you get to the place where you decide that when you realize when your time, you can only do so much. And so for me, when I was making $9 an hour at 20 hours a week, I was still actually, I worked as a waitress on the side, and I worked at Pargo's restaurant. They're not there anymore, but I would take my money even back then, and I hated cleaning the house. So I would pay someone to come clean the house with the money. I'd rather go waitress and make money for, an hour or two, and then take that money and start delegating things out. And so I just started getting to the point, once I decided to get into real estate, I realized I couldn't survive on the money I was making in ministry. And so I kind of started saying, okay, how much do I need to make per hour where I can start hiring out some of the things that I didn't like to do? Because I don't like cooking. I don't like cleaning. There's so many things I didn't like. And so I just started with my company. I was like, okay, I'm going to start hiring. I'm going to start delegating. I'm going to create standard operating procedures, and anything that I didn't like, I decided that I was going to hire out. So that's kind of what got me started on building a team. Like I said, I hired my first assistant and my first team member within my first 30 days of being in the business.
Yep. So got a few questions around that. So when as you're building a business, and, my partners and I are, we've built and are building different real estate related businesses as well. There's a balance of determining when you're at a point to hire the next plug it in, whatever it is, the thing you want to delegate. What is your philosophy around, like, do you view it as I've got to earn the income to justify the hire, or I make the hire that will allow me to earn that income back? How do you view that?
Yeah. Like I said, I hired someone within my first 30 days. I didn't even have a closing. I was like, I will figure it out. I had a little bit of money saved. If these people are going to help me do what they need to, I'm going to be able to hustle even harder. And so I think one of the things about me, and I think the one thing you have to do is really believe in yourself, that you go, I can hire these people knowing that my dollar per hour, and what I call it, I kind of call it my freedom dollar, is going to raise, because every time you can increase how much money you make, you create more freedom for yourself. And so for me, I knew that I could then increase how much I could make, and that would be the kind of game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. We similar to that, I'll kind of speak to so we have a real estate debt fund, and we launched that we were doing some private lending with our own capital, but a fund model, we launched that from zero. We had to spend a lot of money in delegation right out of the gate, to your point, knowing that the return long-term was going to more than make up for that initial cost where we weren't making a penny, so we hired a consultant, we hired a marketing firm, all that stuff ahead of the income. And I, there's several ways to approach it, but I like that approach, because in your case where you hired your first 2 employees, or you delegated those first 30 days, that's an expense. It cranks up the pressure where you have to perform to justify it, right? So I think, that leads to better performance, and kudos to you to figuring that early on, because it's taken me a long time to figure that out.
One of the things that I talk about in my book, I call it a productivity scorecard. And so what I see entrepreneurs that they do all the time is that they basically are just doing busy work because they don't want to sometimes do some of the expensive dollar an hour things that they need to do. So for example, there's $10 an hour. I call them $10 an hour activities, $100 activities, $1,000 activities, and then $10,000 activities. And so, for example, if you're going to be doing $10 activities, that's going to be admin things, filing, organizing, bank deposits, setting up phone calls, transcribing things. Those are all low dollar activities. Then there's kind of, $100 activities. Let's say graphic design work or website projects that you would pay someone for. And then there would be $1,000 activities and $10,000 activities. And so when I say that, like for me, if I was going to say with an agent, let's say, an agent, if I went to go on a listing appointment, that might be $1,000 an hour activity. But if I went and met with a builder that was going to be doing 50 homes that we were going to list, that would be more like a $10,000 an hour. Or I speak on stage sometimes. I know for me, when I go speak on stage and whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in at least $10,000 an hour for that activity because of not only the speaking of money that I make, but also what it brings into my business. And so I always am just kind of saying, okay, am I doing $10? Am I doing $100? Am I doing $1,000? Or am I doing $10,000 activities? And what happens is a lot of times the $1,000 or the $10,000 activities, they're hard to do, right? Like for my business, now that I own the brokerage, a lot of it has to do with me recruiting top teams and top agents. Well, getting those people and talking with those people it's hard work. Or meeting with a brokerage that has 100 agents. That's a $10,000 an hour activity for me. But I might, not want to do that. And then because of my natural, I want to be busy because as entrepreneurs, we're like, oh, we want to be busy. We want to be productive. But guess what? I can see entrepreneurs all the time lean back into doing those $10 an hour activities. And that's what I want to really try to teach people how to do, is to take their life and figure out, okay, if I'm looking at a ledger, right? Make sure that I go, okay, I want to spend my time on the $10,000 income producing revenue, because a lot of times you have to also look at what you're doing and go, is what I'm doing right now income producing? Is it dollar producing revenue right now? Or is it just busy work that I'm doing? And if you look at what you're doing, most entrepreneurs that I see and people that I coach, it's like, let's just write it down for a week or even a couple days. You're going to see how much time you're spending on $10 an hour activities and busy work that's not income and dollar producing activities. And that's what I'm really passionate about teaching people how to do.
I absolutely love all of this. You are, with that approach and that mindset, and I try, I can't say I have perfected it, but I try to take a very similar approach. But what it does, it removes all emotion from it just turns it into a simple math equation, right? You're taking everything and put it in these different buckets, and it either provides you a dollar value, like you said, a $10,000 activity or a $10 activity. And you can also add into the equation, does it energize you? So we did an exercise a year or so ago, very similar to what you're talking about, where we listed out all activities in our business, right? Everything from answering an inbound call for somebody that wants a loan to an investor. We just took all those activities and we did two things. We put either a smiley face or a frowny face. Does it energize me? Does it make me happy to do that task? Or do I hate doing that task? And then we applied a dollar amount to it. And if it made you happy and it makes you money, those are where we need to focus. And it's the exact same thing that you're talking about in a much more articulated, it's articulated very well. But so the book, is this book, have you said you're writing it, or it's
almost done. It'll be out in 30 days.
out in 30 days, and it'll be available on, I guess, all
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay, so we'll definitely link that. Well, in the show. Are you taking pre-orders now, or?
Yeah, if you go to delegateeverythingbutsex.com, you can find out information. And there's also some free checklists on there as well. And so I have a checklist of my house manager. So if you see the things that my house manager does for me, to the point of she puts out my vitamins for me. So I don't have to think about taking what vitamins I take. She prepares my lunches. I don't have to think about what I'm eating for lunch. I want iced coffee in the morning. It's already ready and brewed and ready. So all I have to do is pour it, or she'll get it ready for me. She does all the laundry, all the cleaning, prepares all the meals for the house. She does all the laundry. When I tell you, I've delegated everything but sex in my life, it's kind of a joke, but it's also true. I only do the things that I love to do. And of course, I don't delegate time with friends and family, because that's something you can't delegate out. But besides that, I really do a great job of delegating everything else that I don't like doing.
Yeah, this is impressive. And people, like I've heard Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets talk about this as well. He, like little tasks as simple as cutting his grass. Like he could easily go out and cut his grass. It would take him an hour, right? But that's an hour that he could be spending on a income producing activity. So he hires that out. And then the net result is more money. One thing I want to get back to is the title of this book. And this just goes right back to your marketing genius, because that title, Delegate Everything But Sex, is going to pop. Like people are going to see that. They're going to be intrigued. They're going to dig deeper, and they're going to buy the book. I want to go back because I still, again, going back to the real estate and now this book and other things that you're involved with. I guess it's just something that came natural to you to figure out how to get more eyes and more attention on what you're doing, because for years, all you would hear on local radio was your jingle, right? Everybody knew you through that jingle. And is something like that, or something like the title of this book, do you delegate that? Do you delegate to a third-party marketing firm to help you come up with these things? Or is that coming from right here?
Yeah, that's actually coming from me. I would say things like that, if I wanted to hire someone to do the marketing on that, it would be really expensive, and it's something that I'm already good at. And like I said, it's also about what do I enjoy doing. And I do want to say this because I feel like people have gotten it a little bit wrong when they say, okay, only do what you love. Don't do anything that you don't love. And I don't like taking it that far. And I don't agree with that, because if you think about even like Olympic sports people, they're doing basic drills. Sometimes they're doing basic things that keep them together. They're going to the gym. There's things that they're doing that they probably don't love, but it's part of what they need to do. And so I don't like when people say, only do everything that you love, because that's too extreme. I'm going to do most of the things that I love. And then there's other things like I have to go to the gym myself. I'm not delegating that. I can't delegate that out. Now I can delegate my meals and healthy meals that are going to do, but I still have to eat them to get nutrients. And so I just want to clarify with that people say, okay, listen, yes, we're going to make a list, and 70% of what you're doing, you're going to love, but there's going to be some 30% things. Like for me, I don't enjoy recruiting. I don't like recruiting and attracting talent. I don't know why. It just doesn't come naturally to me, and I don't love it. But if I want to run a business, that's one of the things that I personally have to get involved with. I'll give you an example. Gary Keller of Keller Williams. I've met with him on Zoom multiple times. He's flown me out. I've had personal private lunches with him. He owns $1 billion company. So for him to meet with me, an average person would be like, he doesn't have time to meet with Chantel Ray. Like, yes, we have a big brokerage, and yes, he wants to attract me, and there's a lot of things that we bring to the table, but I'm a very high producer. And so for him, it's worth his time to meet with someone like me because of we're in 20 states now. We're not just local here in Hampton Roads. We've actually changed our brand to Canzel Realty. And the reason why we did that is because agents want to brand themselves. And so we wanted to create a suggestive trademark. And so Canzel is like Susie Kenzel and Billy Kenzel. Like instead of sell your home, it's kind of Zell is like the new keyword. And so for us, it's a suggestive trademark. We're suggesting what we can do. And that's why we created that. And so that was a really big decision for me because we had branded here locally so much with Chantel Ray. But then I said, okay, I can have $1 million company or I can have $1 billion company. And sometimes when you want to go big, you have to change some of the things that you're doing because there's agents out there that don't want to be under the Chantel Ray. Like even the slogan was, if it has to sell, call Chantel. Well, they don't want to call Chantel. They want to call Canzel. So now the brand is, if it has to sell, call Canzel, which is a generic brand. And that's, if you look at all of the huge companies, even Keller Williams changed their name to KW. So it's a very generic brand that agents can kind of brand themselves. And we had to make that change. And it was a really hard decision for us. And it was a big move that we had to make. But again, I always say like, okay, do you want $1 million company or do you want $1 billion company? You make the choice.
Yeah, I am glad you naturally brought that up because I had one of my questions I had written down was about the brand change because I did notice that y'all transitioned and I assumed that was probably it, or similar to what you said. And I'm glad to hear you articulate that because you're right. Now, like somebody in Oklahoma has no clue who Chantel Ray is. That name means nothing to them, but rebranding it that way allows you to go where you're talking about going. And it's very impressive. I love your mindset around, do I want to grow a multi-million-dollar company or a multi-billion-dollar company? And you seem to have a mindset of like the sky's the limit there is no limit. Like there's no ceiling to what you're doing here. Also, this growth seems to have allowed you to kind of focus a little bit more, or maybe a lot more on some more passion projects, like a book like this is going to help so many people beyond real estate. I know the way I kind of, connected with you for this podcast, I saw you on Ben Azadi's podcast talking about health and wellness, and you've got a whole other side of you that is not related to real estate at all. But because of how you're building your teams and your SOPs and your rebranding and all doing all that, you don't have to spend as much time on those things so you can go pursue these other ventures. Is that by design, I assume? Yep.
So what happened was, I was such a hustler in real estate and I had gained a bunch of weight and I was just so unhappy with my weight. And then I found intermittent fasting and I lost 30 pounds doing that. So I created this podcast called Waste Away Through Intermittent Fasting. And we now have had over 500 guests on there. And Ben Azadi was one of them. He's a wonderful guest. And then we also had 500, Dr. Mercola, the biggest doctors, the biggest names that you've ever heard of have been on our podcast. And, I just really hustled. And I will tell you, I didn't care about my health. I just cared about growing the company and grow. And I didn't focus on my health. And then I got to the point where I just got really, really sick. I got psoriatic arthritis. Autoimmune issues, just was not doing well. And every day was a struggle. And so that's what I was like, it kind of is like pain to purpose. It was like, okay, I got to teach other people, not just about how to delegate and not how to do marketing, not how to create SOPs, but you also, what good is it if you build all of that and then you're physically a mess? And it was funny because my husband sent me a bunch of pictures. He's like, babe, look at these pictures of you. And I'm like, throw them out, get rid of them. And he's like, but look how good you look now. And I'm like, well, thank you. I don't think I look great, but he was just like, comparatively, you look amazing. And so, it's funny because my husband, I would probably be about 5 pounds less if it wasn't for my husband because he's he's one of those guys, like he likes a little bit of meat on your bones. And so he's like, if you're getting too skinny, he even says that to me a couple times. He's like, babe, you're getting too skinny. Eat this cheeseburger right away. So
that's funny because my wife's the same way. She's just naturally smaller, but when she like really dials it in and starts losing, I'm like, no, we got to keep a little bit on there for it.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, so I just have been healing my own body, and I'm still, to be honest, I'm not 100%, even with those 500 people. But I will tell you, my health is, 80% better of where it was before. And so I still probably have about 20% to go where I keep dialing it in, and it's a work in progress. Your health, when you get yourself to the point where you got as sick as I was, now recovering back is a lot of work. And so I still have about 20% to go on my health as feeling where I really want to be, but I'm so much better than I was. And so I just really want to help people. I call it health, wealth, and godly wisdom. Like my biggest passion is teaching people just godly wisdom would be number one, and then really helping them with their health, and then helping them with building wealth, and having passive income for life is probably one of my other passions as well.
I love it. One thing I see just following you, like on Instagram, I see how you get now. I know you've got the son that's going to IMG playing baseball. Is that your only child, or do you have?
No, we have a daughter as well, and she actually works for my husband now. So she looks like she's 14. So if you look at all of her pictures, everyone's like, now where's your daughter? We're like, she's 22, but she just looks like she's 14.
Right.
And so she lives on her own. She works for my husband. She's doing a great job. And yeah, they love working together every day. So she's in his business, and he's a competitor. So he owns his own real estate franchise. We do no work together at all. He has over 100 franchises, and we are actually big time competitors. So we compete on stuff all day, every day.
Wow, that's impressive. And then okay. So, and this is typical for this podcast. I go down tangents, but I'm curious, are y'all able to take those hats off at the end of the day? And when y'all are at home and relaxing, and it is business out the door at that point, and y'all are just a married couple?
Yeah, we do. And really, I think for him, he does it better. I'm a little bit more competitive than he is, but not by much. And he really defers to me a lot, where, he's just like, my marriage is more important. I would say our marriage right now on a scale of 1 to 10 is 100. Like, we've never been happier, but it's not always been that way. And he just finally got to the point, like, nothing is more important than our marriage. He literally puts everything is on the back burner. Like, if I need something or anything like that, he literally puts me as number one priority every time. He literally does. It's God number one, but I'm this right after that. And I've never seen a human, people say that, but I've never seen anyone truly do it the way that he does. And he's become like superhusband.com, really.
Good man. It's my wife and I, it's our 15th anniversary today, actually. And that's something that, from day one of our marriage, we say it to each other. We talk about it openly all the time, but we loved each other first. Like, you and I, as individuals, fell in love, and we loved each other first. We love our kids. We love the family we've built, but we loved each other first, and we're going to keep that at the top all the time. And I think that you're exactly right. It's easy to talk about it, and we certainly have fallen off track where we just get so involved in our careers and stuff like that, and we have to bring it back. But it's a hard thing to live, and but if you do it and you communicate like you guys obviously do, it just it takes the happiness scale and 10X's it, for sure. So I'm glad you guys are experiencing that. The question I wanted to ask about the children is, and I'm always fascinated by this when I'm talking to mothers, especially. You mentioned it earlier. You were such a hard hustler early on. You were grinding, you were in your business, and you were delegating as well, but you were working very hard. but you're also raising 2 children. And you also mentioned your husband, also a hustler. How did you guys find that family balance to show your kids, or I don't know if you were able to do this or not, but were you able to show them like good family balance, work-life balance, stuff like that? And how did you do it?
Yeah. Well, I would say my husband is amazing at it. He always puts me and the kids first. But for me, the way I did it is I hustled at work for about 45 hours a week, but I didn't do anything else. So a lot of times people work 40 hours a week, and then they also then come home, and then they're doing laundry, and then they're doing cooking, and then so even though I was working 40 to 45 hours a week, the time when I was home, because I delegated everything else out, I had time to spend playing Monopoly with the kids, or let's go for a walk as a family, or I wasn't like folding laundry while I was spending time with them. I was 100% with them. And I can say I truly spend as much time with the kids as they will allow me to. Meaning, like, my son's 13 now. So, he wants to go out and play with his friends and stuff like that. But we spend so much one-on-one quality time together. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because I've delegated so much stuff out that I only do my work stuff, and everything else I have time to spend with either my kids or my husband or my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I personally needed to hear this as well. It's so, there are things, because you think about it, you work hard all week. You obviously solved this puzzle early on, but you work hard all week. The weekend comes, now you're trying to get the house clean, and you're working in the yard, doing all this stuff that pulls away from that time, like you're talking about. And it is not easy to let go of some of those things, but it's just a cost. Like, you just find somebody else to do it, pass that on to them. And would I pay what it would cost me to hire somebody to cut my grass to get that hour to spend more time with my kids? Heck yes. When I look at it that way, absolutely I would. So I think it's a good point. Where can folks, I know you have a coaching platform, or you offer coaching and mentorship and stuff like that. Where can folks go to find more about everything Chantel Ray Finch?
Yeah, so it's just chantelray.com, and then also delegateeverythingbutsex.com. Those are the 2 best places to find me. Or people can follow me on Facebook at Chantel Ray Finch, and my Instagram too.
Gotcha. So I'm going to leave you with one question, and this is a question I ask most of my guests, and I didn't prepare you for this, so if you need a second to think about it, but think about a book or a podcast or a movie or video, something inspirational you've seen, read, or watched in the last however many years that has been a positive impact on your life that you could share with the audience that they could take away.
Yeah, I would say that it's called the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. There's probably not a day that goes by that I don't listen to at least 1 or 2 leadership podcasts. And so absolutely my favorite would be the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. And then I also just like the Entree Leadership Podcast is pretty good. The Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast is good. The John Maxwell Leadership Podcast. I am a math major. I don't like to read and I don't like to write. So everything I do is audio. I listen to audiobooks. I listen to podcasts. I don't really read books very often. I would say there isn't a day that goes by that I don't listen to at least 2 leadership podcasts per day. Podcasts just like yours. Like, you have an amazing podcast. I just feel like, people need to be listening to these podcasts just every single day. It's just a habit that they do, that they say, okay, you have great guests on here. They should be listening to your episode every single day, and however many you have, obviously, but just making that habit of 2 podcasts a day. Because the thing about podcasts that make it so great is you can be driving in the car. It's hard when you're reading a book, you have to be just focused on that. So when you're driving, or if you are outside going for a walk or whatever you're doing, there's no excuse that you can't have 2 podcasts every day. If you're going to the gym, put on headphones. do it. And there's nobody that can tell me. You can say I'm too busy to read. You can tell me that. And I would say there's a reason for that, but there's no reason why you can't listen to podcasts. So I would say listen to this podcast and find some other leadership podcasts that you love and incorporate it in your day and do at least 2 a day would be my advice.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't anymore. I don't hear your commercials anymore. I don't even know if they're out there because I don't listen to the radio anymore. It's all
Right.
podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that. But yeah, I appreciate that perspective. I've gotten, my whole life has changed due to podcasts. I mean, I can definitively say that because I used to just work my corporate sales career, come home, watch sports on TV, go to bed, do it again the next day. It was nothing educational other than what was provided through my job. And once I started leaning in on listening to business, leadership, real estate, mindset, some of it's just listening to fiction books, whatever it is, but it's just filling my head with good stuff that impacts my life in a positive way. My whole world changed. My health changed, my outlook on everything, my mood changed, everything changed with that. And I guess the other effects of that, you get to hear so many different perspectives that from folks I would never have met otherwise, and doctors and scientists talking about how different oils impact you and intermittent fasting and all this stuff. I would have never heard any of this stuff if I was still going through my routine of coming home and watching a ball game every night, So to your point, excellent advice. Yeah.
And I would just say, I would leave people with just, if you really listen to what I'm saying about, your dollar productive behavior, like I said, if someone's a real estate agent, there's really only 5 things that they can do to be productive. They can either prospect, they could do listings, they could negotiate, they could be selling, they could be holding a deal together. And that's about it. But they spend their time doing so much other stuff. And so like for me right now that we're in 20 states, now that I'm on the broker side of things, it's like I can be prospecting, recruiting, training, coaching, or retaining the agents that we have in our company. And so I got to keep my people in line to go, what are you spending your time on? Are you prospecting, recruiting, training, coaching, and retaining agents? Because those are the only 5 things that are our productive activities. And so I just want to leave people with that. Like really look at your time and go, am I doing dollar productive activities? And what can I do to delegate and delegate everything but sex?
I love it. Great title again. Chantel, I can't thank you enough. I know you're busy. I know you guys are in the middle of a move and all of that. So for you to carve out an hour of your day and spend it with me and my audience, I really appreciate it. And I am going to drop in the show notes all the links of everything you referenced, and hopefully we can drive a few people to connect with you and follow. I can't wait to read your book. I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.